I once outed my friend's brother as bisexual. It was an accident, I swear. So, I'm on Tinder, but I'm on it looking at both men and women. And suddenly I see someone who looks really familiar. I don't recognise his name, but he looks really familiar. Like, he looks really similar to a friend of mine. It's almost uncanny. Anyway, a week later, or maybe it was a few days later, I'm sat down with this friend, the one who has an uncanny resemblance to Tinder guy. And we're talking and we're catching up. And suddenly, he starts telling me about his brother. His brother who's engaged to a woman. I should leave it there. I know I should. I know that as the words are about to leave my mouth, that I shouldn't be saying them. That my brain should be telling me to just shut up and leave well enough alone. That, what he doesn't know won't hurt him. But I don't think that's true. Not knowing something can have the potential to hurt much more than knowing it does. Not knowing something can set you up for miscommunication and disappointment in silent, subtle ways. Not knowing something can break your heart. So I find myself asking what his brother's name is. And he tells me. And yeah, his brother is Tinder guy. He asked me why, as in, why do you ask? I could have said, just asking out of curiosity. That it's strange that we've known each other for so long, but I've never thought to ask what his brother's name is. I've only met his brother a few times, which is why seeing his face on Tinder was more uncanny than it was familiar. As if Tinder guy was somehow out of place there. But I didn't say any of those things. I didn't say anything really. There's no easy way to tell someone, because I saw him looking for dick on Tinder. So I just sat in silence for a while as I tried to figure out how to tell him something that might just change everything. So I showed him the profile, the picture, the uncanny face of Tinder guy reminding me so much of my totally straight friend. And again, we were in silence for a while as he tried to figure out how to understand everything. How to understand the questions that I wouldn't be able to answer. The questions that he couldn't ask anyone, not even his own brother. Eventually I just said, is that him? And he said, yeah. After that, my friend, he spoke to his brother. He told me that he had to. He didn't thank me for the information that I'd given him, but he didn't seem angry either. At the end of the day, I guess that's a win for me. When you tell someone that you discovered their brother secretly looking for dick on Tinder, well, you expect to be told that you're a liar. You get told to fuck off, maybe even get hit. But none of that happened. He couldn't call me a liar after what I'd shown him, and he seemed too shaken to tell me to fuck off. I did think he might hit me. He wouldn't have been the first guy to. And if he had, he might not have been the last. But he didn't. All he said was, I need to talk to my brother. He said it a few times, slowly at first, as if he was rehearsing the conversation he knew he had to have. I need to talk to my brother. I didn't say anything. Well, there was nothing that I could have said. Nothing that I could have said would have mattered at that point. I probably shouldn't have said anything in the first place. But in my defence, I didn't know that Tinder guy was still in the closet to his own brother. I mean, if I had, I wouldn't have said anything. Forcibly outing someone? That's a fucked up thing to do. But who's still in the closet to their own brother? This guy, apparently. Honestly, if I'd known, I wouldn't have said anything. Later, much later, my friend tells me that he took his brother, Tinder guy, to one side, and he says to him in a voice full of big brotherly purposefulness and seriousness, "We need to talk." But Tinder guy, he's already figured this out. All he says is, yeah, so you found me. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. He was that sure about the conversation they were about to have, that certain of the knowledge that his brother had stumbled across. So you found me. I think about that phrase quite a lot. There's something about it that I like. The way that it sounds like a secret that was never really a secret, that this thing could be so easily discovered if you only knew where to look. And in this case, you'd have to look on Tinder. But he was still hiding in fairly plain sight. But a lot of people do that when they're still in glass closets, when their queerness is out in the open, but they don't have the desire or the will or the urge to formally come out to someone. Because it is a dreadfully formal thing to do. I have a friend who got into her first relationship with another girl when she was 19. It was intense and became serious really quickly and was all-encompassing in that way. That first queer relationships, it always seems unique to them in a way that isn't for straight relationships. I think it's because your first straight relationship is to be expected, treated as the norm. So when it happens, nobody really gives a damn. It just is what it is. It's normal, whatever that means. That's why my friend decided to come out to her parents. It's why I did. It's why I still do. So often when meeting someone new, you feel the need to come out over and 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 over again. You're never just out. No. Your relationship to the closet is liminal. You drift in and you drift out, depending on who you're talking to, who you're having dinner with, or who you're taking home at the end of the night. So one weekend, she decides to go back up north to see her parents. It wasn't a spontaneous trip, it was planned for some time, an aunt or an uncle's birthday or whatever. So she wasn't going home just to come out, but she knew that this was when she wanted to do it. Not at this big party with the rest of the family, it was just afternoon, her and her parents. So she paced up and down, she got flustered, she got agitated, and she didn't know how to approach it. Nobody ever does. Not just the first time, but every time. So she sat them down, Dad, and she told them that she had something important to tell them, something really important. Dad asked if she was pregnant. And she thought this was funny, and intentionally or not, it kind of broke the tension. gave her a way in to talking about it. She said, no, I'm not pregnant. In fact, it's kind of the opposite of that, actually. And then she did what you always do in a situation like that when you think you've said something that's outed you. She waited to see if they'd get it. They didn't get it. So she just had to go for it. In her head she said, fuck it, and decided that this was the moment. So she told them, I am seeing a girl. And then she did what you always do when you've come out to someone. She waited. And waited. And waited. Kind of like that. and nobody said anything for what felt like a long time. A really long time. It was one of those moments where it's like, you know, time just seems to stretch out forever. Like when you're waiting outside a doctor's office for results. Or when you've just told someone that you love them. Time just slows down and the silence becomes total. Somebody just needs to say something to break it. She thought that her mum might cry. She looked as though she might, but she didn't. She held herself together. And finally, she said, we just want you to be happy. And that's as good a result as you can hope for in a situation like that. The fewer questions asked, the better. Her parents looked at each other. Her mum looked sad but relieved, and her dad looked concerned in that way that dads so often are. I think it must come from a good place, a place of maybe being slightly too overprotective of their kid. And the whole weekend she was there, he didn't mention it. Maybe he was still processing it, or maybe he was in denial, trying to ignore it. Or maybe he was at peace with it, in a weird Zen kind of way. But I doubt it. I mean, nobody's dad is ever Zen about anything. Especially when it comes to their kid. And that's the best coming out story that I've heard. Well, not best as in a story to tell from a narrative perspective, but best, you know, it lacks drama or conflict. It's a very simple story. And it's a good coming out story because it lacks those things. Because it's a coming out story without drama, conflict, or shouting. Huh? Oh. The first time I remember seeing a gay character on TV was in Desperate Housewives. The son of Stepford was gay in it. I think my mum just used to really enjoy it. It just seems like one of those shows that mums everywhere seem to enjoy. And I was pretty young when it was first on, maybe just outside of my teens. So in terms of queerness, I didn't know, but I knew something. I knew that there were certain things that I read or saw or whatever that ended up lingering in my head for a really long time. And the gay son in Desperate Housewives was one of those things. But that's not a coming out story that ends well. So son of Stepford and his mother are driving along in the car, and he's been out to her for a while now, but she's not dealt with it. She's not dealt with it at all, because it's just so incompatible with her Christian, small c conservative, white picket fence worldview. I feel like I should say that this is a Desperate Housewives spoiler, so if you're a young queer or a heterosexual man, then I will be spoiling this particular plot point. She disowns him. She drives him to the side of the road, and she leaves him there. I mean, how fucked up is that? And it's not the kind of thing you only hear about in soap operas. So often you hear about people who have been disowned or kicked out of their homes because they've come out to their parents. That's why I don't judge people for not doing it. Staying in the closet. It's not about shame. Sometimes it is about survival. I tried to come out to a few people a few times. Honestly, I did. And I know it seems like all I can do is shit talk it. But I tried. I really tried. But I just couldn't say it. Just couldn't quite say it. I think maybe because I didn't know what I was, or what to call myself. I still don't. So,
Hi, I'm Becca.
And I'm Emily.
And we're the co-producers of Quintuple Live.
We would really love it if you'd watch our scratch performances and give us a review.
They're only 15 minutes long, and if you leave feedback on all 4, you'll be entered into a prize draw for a £50 voucher.
Thank you so much for supporting us. We're a small independent theatre company. We and all of our wonderful directors and actors don't work for profit.
And if you're able to donate just the cost of a cup of coffee, perhaps £3, please do click the link below, as it will help keep us running
and continue developing these fantastic shows into full productions.
Thank you.